son of a bitch.
Groovy.
Hey everybody, this is Matthew Movies coming at you with my review of The Defenders, the 2017 Netflix miniseries that is a continuation of the Marvel Netflix series as a whole. It is the coming together of Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, Daredevil, and Iron Fist, and I personally enjoy this a great deal. I have seen some of the reactions to this miniseries, and I gotta tell you, I don't really see where they're coming from. This is not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but I thought it was definitely a good time and an entertaining series, and had a lot of strengths. I mean, it did have a few weaknesses for sure, but it had a lot of strengths. And I think one of the major strengths of this miniseries, I should say, right off the hop, is that it's just that it's a miniseries. Instead of being 13 episodes like all the other Netflix series, where it is only 8, which I think is such a great idea. I mean, don't get me wrong, there have been some of the series where I thought that they were very worthy of having 13 episodes. I thought that was the case with Daredevil more than any of the others, and also Jessica Jones. Luke Cage and Iron Fist, I both thought were too long. I felt that they were stretched out, and there was episodes where very little happened as a result in order to get those 13 episodes. And I think that they would have been a lot better had they shortened them. I'm not saying necessarily to 8, but if they went to 10 or whatever. I hope in the future they're not so gung-ho about necessarily getting to 13, or if they are going to make sure that they get to 13, if they make sure that there's enough content to make that interesting. But, I mean, you know, overall I still enjoy pretty much all the series, so can't complain too much. And talking about the Defenders themselves, like I said before, it's the core 4, and Luke Cage right off the hop, I feel like is kind of one of the more interesting characters in this whole franchise. I mean, I really enjoy his character a lot. You get right thrown into his world in the beginning of the series. I think it's really cool in the first episode, instead of, you know, jumping in and having them all come together immediately, how the first episode you just are looking at their individual adventures again, and kind of interspersed between the 4 of them. And I personally found in that episode the most interesting to be Luke Cage's, the whole concept of him getting out of prison and trying to go back to his life, which is where he was at the end of his own miniseries. I thought that was really cool. I liked his performance throughout the entirety of this series. I like the idea that, like, of all the characters, he was the one that was the kind of like, ah, come on, when being introduced to all of these kind of out there concepts like the Hand and people coming back to life and all that kind of stuff. I liked, he kind of served to a large degree as the embodiment of a viewer that may be kind of just thrown into this world where, you know, obviously he has all these immense abilities, and is somebody that you do not want to trifle with by any stretch of the imagination, but at the same time, you know, he is by far the most uninitiated into the world that they're a part of in this film. Like, his villains in his movie, or his series I should say, were much more grounded in real life. So to see him kind of grapple with the concepts of this miniseries, I thought was very cool. I thought he was definitely one of the most entertaining parts of this movie, or I keep saying movie, miniseries. Then you have Jessica Jones in this. I thought, you know, I loved Jessica Jones, the series. I thought it was absolutely fantastic, and I really liked Kristen Ritter's performance in it, and I think that she is great in this. Her character is basically the kind of unwilling participant of the 4, where she is definitely the least interested in being a hero of the group. You know, she just did her thing and helped out the city in her own series, but she still just wants to be an investigator and kind of do her own thing and drink and be irresponsible. And for her being thrust into this world was difficult, and I thought she just did a fantastic job in playing that performance and giving that performance, I should say, and does great here. And one of the things I thought was a major strength of this series, and I think it was greatly epitomized by her character, was the fact that all the characters felt honest to the ones that we've been introduced to in their own series. You didn't have any of them all of a sudden, you know, going from this kind of rebellious character to being like, I'm Captain America, I'm one for all, one, you know, there was none of that stuff. So I thought that was great. I really enjoyed her character for that. You did have Iron Fist in this, which I think his performance again was the biggest weakness of this miniseries. I was not a huge fan of his series. I thought there was parts of it that were really great, and thankfully one of those parts is in this miniseries as well. But I just feel I don't buy his character. He isn't. Thankfully, he's not nowhere near as whiny as he was in his own series. But again, I don't know. There's just such a disconnect for me with his character, where he's this guy with great means, but always kind of feeling like he woe is me, and it just doesn't work for me. And then I'll say this: there's a lot of fight sequences in this series, and I think that personally, all the fight sequences with him in it are the weakest by far. They feel choreographed. They feel like somebody being like doing a dance, two guys or two people doing a dance, and I think that's a big weakness. And then probably my favorite of the four, which is hard to say because I like the other two so much, but Daredevil's in this, and he's just such a great character. I always was a huge fan of him from the comics, and they've done such a fantastic job of bringing him to life in this series. And I just adored his performance and the way he was written. I thought it was absolutely fantastic, and just he was, to me, he was kind of the emotional core of the film, or again, I say it again, the mini series. And I loved the way they wrote the character, and his Charlie Cox's performance is just knocked me out of my shoes. It was absolutely fantastic. And then you were introduced to a new character that I thought was just so memorable and great, and Sigourney Weaver playing the leader of the Hand, and I thought she was absolutely awesome, and just such a great performance, and such a fascinating character. And this whole idea of her, where she's this fearsome being that everybody around her is very much worried about trifling with, but at the same time, she isn't the physical threat that a lot of the other characters are. And I thought that was really interesting. But at the same time, there are moments where you do see her holding her alone, and you can completely understand why she is in the power position that she is. So I thought that was very ably handled. I really liked seeing Elektra back. I thought she was fantastic in the second season of Daredevil. So the way that they brought her back was fantastic, and I thought her performance as a character was great, where she's kind of grappling with her position in the world, and her feelings on everything. Really, I really enjoyed her performance, and her fight sequences are fantastic. I mean, the woman that they have playing her, just she does such a great job of embodying this character far better than the Elektra we saw in the Elektra or Daredevil movie, that's for sure. But there's not a whole lot of competition there. Then you have Misty Knight and Colleen Wing, which was really cool seeing them on screen together, and I really adored both of their performances in the Luke Cage and Iron Fist series. I thought Colleen Wing was by far one of the best parts of Iron Fist. I thought she gave such a honest portrayal and created such a likable character, and to see her come into this and hold her own again, which I thought was awesome, because she's in this world with now 4 legitimate heroes with powers, and to have her come in and still be somebody that you don't want to not take seriously, I thought was great. And then, like I said before, Misty Knight, I mean, I just think that she's such a cool character, and just great in this series, and there's just something about her. She feels like total badass throughout, and I mean, she's a gorgeous woman, and just to see her character progress in this was awesome. And like I said before, seeing Colleen Wing and Misty Knight in the sequence together, I mean, so cool. And then you brought back Karen Page and Foggy Nelson from the Daredevil series. I thought that both of them were good. I was not a fan at all of Karen Page's portrayal in the second season of Daredevil, and to see what they did with this character in this gives me hope for how they'll handle her in the third season, where I liked the concept of where they went in the second season of Daredevil, but I just didn't like the way it was written, the way her character, like the things that her character did outside of the major moments. I just didn't work for me at all. But I thought she was much better in this. You could understand where she was coming from for sure, and I thought she was really good in it. And Rosario Dawson is back, and I gotta tell you, she was one of my least favorite parts of this series, and that's difficult for me to say, because I really enjoy Rosario Dawson as an actress. I think she is phenomenal, and I thought her character was interesting in the other series, but I always feel like she's kind of tacked on to a degree, where she was the through line for the most part, and there's other through lines as well, but she was the major one in all the other series, so she had to play a major role in this as well. And I thought the way the character was written, she did a good job for sure, but I don't know. The problem for me is that they put her in these deadly situations that she. It's not like she's kicking ass or anything like that, but she's holding her own, and I just never buy it. She's up against people that are much more skilled than her, and yes, in Iron Fist we saw she was doing some training or whatever, but she's nowhere near. We've not seen her train nearly enough for me to take her seriously, and they play on that. They're not portraying her as like this fearsome being in this by any stretch of the imagination, but she also is able to exist in these situations, and I don't buy it. I mean, I think she's a good moral base, and if her character was present but not like and not I wouldn't, it's not like I want her to be the damsel in distress by any stretch of the imagination, but I just don't buy her in several of the situations that she gets put in this series, and so that to me was a weakness. I loved seeing Stick back. I mean, I just think Stick is such a cool character, played by Scott Glenn, one of my all-time favorite actors, and I just think he does such a great job in this. He's such a interesting character, and that he's willing to do anything or say anything in order to get to the end result that he needs. I just thought he was fantastic. I really enjoyed every single appearance he made in any of the Netflix series, and I thought it was really cool to see him in this. I mean, Scott Glenn just does such a great job of embodying that character. And then you have the five fingers of the hand. There's three of them that you see together a lot, and Madame Gao is back, which I thought was fantastic. I loved Madame Gao, the character. I thought she was such a cool character. This little old lady that on the face of it doesn't seem like somebody that you should be afraid of by any stretch of the imagination, but the way the character's written, the things she does, she's actually one of the scariest characters in the entire MCU, in my opinion. Much more scary than a lot of the villains from the films, for sure. I loved her character. I loved seeing her back, and they brought back the villain guy from Iron Fist, and he interacts with Colleen Wing a lot, which it makes it a little bit better because I like Colleen so much. But and I could swear, I don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure they introduced a new guy who's he's the only one who actually speaks Japanese throughout the entire series, and they introduce him as this kind of total badass, and I really liked him a lot. And then they have White Hat, this other he's kind of right off the hop, you take him as maybe a lower level, but then when you figure out that he's one of the five fingers, and he's a lot more fearsome than you might think, and a lot more stylish and really cool. I loved his character. I thought he was so great. So great. One of the highlights of this series for me by far. Overall, I really enjoyed this miniseries a great deal. I thought it was written well. I thought the way that the story progressed was really cool. Most of the characters were great to see on film. Like I said before, it definitely does have flaws. There's some characters that every time they show up, it's like, and there's some shoddy writing. Some of the lines are pretty hard to stomach at points, but they come, they're gone, and you can move past them, or at least I could. I mean, I could understand why maybe somebody may not be able to, potentially, but for me, it wasn't a problem. So those are my thoughts on the Defenders. Let me know in the comment section below what you think, if you've seen it, if you're interested in seeing it, if the concept interests you, whatever. Other than that, please hit that like button, hit that share button. It makes it much more likely that other people come check out this review and let me know what they think. And beyond that, if you haven't done it yet, or you're new to my channel, please hit subscribe, hit that notification bell so you can find out when I put out a new video, and come give me your thoughts, and then have yourself a good day.